Welcome to the TELUS STORYHIVE On Location, Nanaimo. We're coming to you live from the Nanaimo territories, and a deep bow, deep respect, and deep love to the original caretakers of this land. My name's Jordan Dack. I am a poet, a songwriter, a producer, entrepreneur, and host of this creative deep dive called Creative or Die. I am being joined by an absolutely one of those people where creativity seems to run through their veins. Sonnet is here with us to talk about the creative process, about poetry, about the bridge of where poetry meets music, about taking apart words and putting them back together in a way that serves the truth and the heart. And so, Sonnet, for those that don't know all about you, why don't you just share a little bit about exactly what you want to share about?
Sure. Okay, so my name is Sonnet L'Abbé. I am a mixed race, Black, they, them, born in Toronto, who is very grateful to be here in Nanaimo territory. I write poems. And so I've been doing that for a number of years now. I teach people how to write poems. I teach English literature at a university at VIU. And gosh, I'm just trying to think of how to introduce myself other than to say that I write poems. And now for the past few years, I've been trying to bring that. My creative practice I'm trying to expand it into writing songs and communicating that way.
Awesome. Now, before we put the resume aside, when I was reading about you, there were lots of articles written about you. You have a lot of presence online. Some people refer to you as Sonnet L'Abbé, and some people refer to you as Dr. Sonnet L'Abbé.
Oh yes, I have a FUD. I have the PhD.
You have the PhD.
Yeah. Yes.
Great. So
in English literature.
Yeah. So you have all the necessary credentials to write a poem. You can be trusted with the pen.
Oh boy, I don't. Some might say the PhD could mess with that, but
yeah. Okay. Well, I'd love to actually talk about that in a minute.
Sure.
But my first question, before I start pouring the tea, is: are poems built or uncovered?
Are poems built or uncovered? What I love about the word built is the heaviness that it has, and because I often have compared words to bricks, and that you but the fun is being that precise, and that every word that you have has weight, and then you assemble a little thing. Uncovered, I guess is less intuitive for me. Maybe flow, like something kind of comes through you, and then you just sort of write it down as it comes through, is another way of thinking about it.
So reading your poetry, there is a great deal, or I found for myself as a reader, a great deal of emotion and passion and sometimes urgency in your poetry. Is that what comes through in the flow? Is that what the editor and the word processing brick mover has allowed to remain in the poem, or is that something that you built in after the fact?
I would say that the internal pressure is in the flow part. But one of the hallmarks usually of good writing, whether it's poetry or any other writing, is getting your point across with as few words as possible, or with as few syllables as possible, just to keep the brain, not give the brain so much work to do while it tries to understand your meaning. So if after you generate your stuff, you take all of your heartfelt thoughts or rigorous questions and take all the words out that don't absolutely have to be there, then you often find that the poem finds its own energy.
Yeah. Okay. When you're inviting your students to look for those moments, hunt for those moments in their writing that feel alive or potent, um, how do you instruct them to find those moments? Is it a somatic experience that they're looking for, they're waiting for?
I would say so.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just over and over again reading other people's work and noticing where you're like, yeah, that feels neat. And then because I teach workshops, you have the work of other students to respond to, and um, often everyone is responding to a similar prompt, so you get to see a whole bunch of different ways of approaching the same question,
Mm.
learning what you like. And so it's almost like, I think, uh, what I imagine learning to be a wine connoisseur is like.
Mm.
I've never had the opportunity to drink enough wine to be a connoisseur,
Yeah.
but I have had some good wines,
Yeah.
and you have to be exposed to good wines
Mm.
before you can have a taste about it, and before you can really discern and have an opinion about what's working.
Yeah, that's right.
So, same with poetry.
When I imagine you in your classes, I imagine as someone who loves experiments and research, and I imagine you've got this this group of people that you can almost test on. That sounds totally unethical. No, but what I mean is that those lines that feel alive to one person, do you notice that when it feels alive to the writer, do you notice in the room that it feels alive to many of the other people as well?
Yes.
So you can
Yes.
get that feedback from, is it something, first of all, is it something that they have to say, or when the line is read aloud or read on the screen, can you feel it in the room?
Yes. Yes. And I think that's one of the great things. There are pros and cons to an academic workshop as a place to grow yourself as a
Mm.
writer. But one of the big pros is that somewhat inability of the body to lie,
Mhm.
right? So
It's beautiful.
I would say that most work that is okay, most work is okay, right?
Right.
In a workshop, you've got people who are competent at
Yeah.
what they do,
Mhm.
and some are writing for an assignment, so might not be like, sometimes they might be writing to a prompt or writing on a day when they're not their best self. They've got other things to do, like,
Mm.
and so the work of the people who are giving feedback is to articulate. We start with a just here's what I think this poem is trying to do, or basically, like, here's what I think you're trying to do with this poem. And then there's a work involved, a word work involved, in even just describing what the poem is about.
Mm.
Sometimes it's so obvious. Oh, this poem is about when you lost your cat and went and found it and then met somebody.
Mhm.
Sometimes people will be like, I genuinely don't know what you're trying to get at here. So
Right.
that's information. But when something is really working, it usually has clarity.
Mm.
So people are not necessarily stymied about what the poem is about. And then they are surprised or delighted or moved in a way that is about the body.
Mhm.
Yeah.
'Cause I'm thinking about your classroom with that palpable feeling when someone shares a line that just impacts the space it's in. And but I imagine that that same line may not impact all spaces the same way.
Hmm.
Right? If the space is made up of the listeners and um, the context that they bring into the space, I suppose. Um,
And you're also imagining and thinking about a very specific way to encounter a poem.
mhm.
So a classroom setting is one way. Another way would be um, at a reading where the room is set up to give the poet a degree of authority, and the audience is not invited to share their opinion or
Mhm.
feedback. There's a situation like this where it's mediated by media, and then there's the on the page, like, you're sitting in your jammies with your tea,
Yeah.
looking at a book.
Okay.
And when I started, like some poets that end up publishing books start with a performance practice and start with a spoken word practice where, yeah, their first forays were to go out to an open mic and share their work. I started with, writing in my little journal and then coming to school and being like, here's my little poem. And so it was very text based. And what moves someone, if it's spoken with the voice, it's just an entirely a very different medium than the page as far as connecting to the person who's hearing the poem or reading the poem.
Yeah. I love how diligent you are with the words that you use.
It's a feature.
It's a feature.
Yeah.
Like even the fact that you use the word feature when explaining it, that says it all. And of course, it doesn't say it all. It says something. So I would love, if you're up for it, if you have a poem that you could read that myself and anyone who's watching now or watches this video in the future, they could write in the comments which line of your poem gave them goosebumps or had impact on them, and we can test some of this out on the internet audience. How do you feel about that?
Whoa.
We don't have to do it. We could retract the invite.
Why not? Sure. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Detox. I'm happy on apples. A cherry jubilee. Anus, esophagus, citrus scrubbed. I'm sparkling, grapefruit pink. Is my bliss this unchemical? Off the dirty thrill of the sucrose roller coaster, caffeine's race machinery unplugged. I'm enough red meat for me. There's nothing to whine about. Last call for alcohol. Weaned off nicotine, nope to dope. It's a waking dream, not me. Suddenly, I'm solid as a clean joke, stable as a wooden table. The trees laugh like teenagers at my clearly altered state.
Wow, that was an awesome poem.
Okay. Cool.
And I think it was the perfect one for this exercise.
Okay.
The lines are very distinct, and I mean, right away, even just the two words combined, citrus scrubbed.
Yeah.
Just hit me hard.
Cool.
Also, and I may have not written these down correctly. Is my bliss this unchemical?
Yeah.
Like even just saying those words, having those words come off of my tongue, I get a somatic experience by saying them.
Nice.
The trees laugh like teenagers. Yes, absolutely they do.
I've never had this experience before of like an in the moment, like.
Yeah. What is it like?
It's quite satisfying. Thank you.
Oh my gosh. So you have been taking your words that you have spent years and years and years working on crafting, and you have been bridging over into the world of music.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Part of it, I'm now at the point of I don't know. Like I'll just sit in the mystery of why do we even create? Why am I compelled to spend this much time? Because now I've gotten into piano and which I did when I was young, and now I'm like you can see I've got the jazz piano book. Like I'm like, okay, and sus whatever chord is the inversion. Like I'm into it. Yeah. So that's the first answer, is that I just think I'm returning to a creative impulse that I had when I was young. I felt like music hit me in that way of like the same way as like language is amazing. Like music, hello, frequencies, they're physical, it's just waves, you know, like, oh my God. And
Yeah.
like harmonies, the fact that like, okay, this thing that vibrates at this frequency, and then you get it so that there's another one, and that's a perfect fifth, and we feel a way about that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that is just too much. Like, who programmed that?
Yeah, seriously.
What the
right?
heck?
What I'm getting from you is that sometimes people, when they get mathematical or scientific about art, it strips some of the beauty away. It sounds like it adds.
I'm a
for
math nerd. I would have been. I mean, had I gone in a different direction.
Yeah.
Yeah, I dig it.
That's super
For
cool.
sure. So as you can see, I kind of light up when I talk about it.
Yeah.
And so I've just tried to follow, like, it's the same thing. I'm trying to follow those impulses. And this book, the last book that I published, this one is really dense. Like,
Yeah.
you can see
Yeah,
that they're super dense. And it took a long time to write. And so I think I just moving into a different energy. Plus, if the impulse to write is somewhat of a storytelling impulse, a little bit of that problem-solving impulse, and wanting to connect with people, poetry has a smaller audience and a specific kind of demographic usually, and I could be preaching to the converted for many of the things that I might feel like the world needs more,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
But with music, I reach more people,
Yeah.
and maybe not as deeply, but every now and then I get to sing the same song that lands in a gallery. I'll sing down at the Nanaimo bar,
Mm-hmm.
and there'll be like guys there who are back from the oil patch,
Right.
sitting there, and they'll be like, "Oh, that was a song about what?" And
Yeah.
and I just feel like my work gets to move through more spaces.
Yeah. Do you have
Um,
any songs that, like, I did see your guitar around here. Is there anything that you'd want to play right now for us? Or something you're working on? It doesn't even need to be a finished piece.
Oh my God. Well, sure, I can play
Let's do
something.
it.
I can play something, sure. Yeah. So folks at the Nanaimo Art Gallery did a project a few years ago called Hali Atastalo, which was by the river, I think is the translation from Halkamina, and brought in a bunch of artists to do projects around the Millstone River that's
Mhm.
here. And Nancy Turner, who's an ethnobotanist who used to work at University of Victoria and who collected all kinds of wisdom from Indigenous women, talked with an elder named Geraldine Manson, who's a Nanaimo elder here in town, whose Hulkaminam name is Satasia. And they did a walk along the river looking at native species and speaking. And I was there to
wow.
I was there to document it.
Yeah.
So this song comes from that. And if I, you can stop me if it gets to, I can stop if it's too long.
It won't be.
Elise asks the elders about invasive species. She's wondering what we should do. Elise asks the elders about invasive species. She's wondering what we should do. What should we do about the Scotch broom that yellows the meadows and roadsides? How should we treat him? English holly and English ivy with its ever-spreading vines. Unless you uproot them, they'll choke the ecosystem, the ethnobotanist replies. Unless you uproot them, they'll choke the ecosystem, the ethnobotanist replies. What should we do about the Scotch broom that yellows the meadows and hydro corridors? How should we treat Himalayan blackberry that trades its sweet fruit for control of countryside? You can't get rid of all of it, says Cetacea. You can't just blitz the land. You can't just pull out everything without hurting the other plants. You've got to go in by hand. I'm going to stop there. I condensed it, but that's part of it.
Oh, you need not. I could listen to that for a lot longer.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So you spoke a bit about your activist side, and maybe that is mischaracterized. Maybe it's not a side, but do you find that you need to give yourself space? Do you need to step into an observer place when the world and communities can feel very overwhelming? Do you need to step out of it to write about it, or do you write from within it?
I just intuitively, I think in it. I think that I don't think that there is an outside, right? I think that there's maybe hot and cold. I think that there's like regulated and unregulated.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And
That's well said.
and I can write from an unregulated place, but I do think part of the responsibility, I guess, of an artist to their community and within their community is to look at the work from a regulated place, from a calm place, before deciding to like put it out there.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So there is that moment that a poet might want to take, or a songwriter might want to take, to just like step back and look at what you've written.
Yeah.
And even though maybe you wrote it from an unregulated place, to look at it from a regulated place before release.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. You have found a voice around it, and maybe it's because, as you said, you were writing before you decided to be an activist, but the personal is political, and so I'm putting words in your mouth here, so just take them out of your mouth. But maybe you saw what you had at your fingertips, which was a pen and paper, students, a guitar, and so this is the way that you were able to express that, when others maybe hadn't picked up a pen, or maybe didn't express it in other ways as well. I guess there's so many ways to express. But if you think forward to that Nina Simone version of Sonnet, or but very sonnet version of Nina Simone in the future, do you already know which lessons you will still need to learn to become that artist that you imagine in the future? Do you already know them but haven't learned them?
Know what lessons I need to learn before I get there?
Yeah.
Community would be a huge part of it, right? With musicianship, it's all about playing with people.
Yeah.
And so how I show up, who I am in the music communities that I move in, is still kind of junior, like still like I'm being supported by, I'm learning from people. And so not in the same role to be like mentoring as I am in a literary space.
Yeah, that's right.
So I just find myself aiming over and over again to come into contact and work with the people who will teach me the language as they speak it. And the more I work with other people, the better I will become at speaking the language of music. And that's not a part that you can engineer.
Right.
Yeah. So I just try to move into different spaces. Next year, academic year, I have a teaching leave. So I'm not sure where I will be yet. I would like to study music with someone, so or someone's,
Hmm.
and so I'm looking at various options. But Toronto, I'll spend some time in Toronto. I'll spend some time in Montreal. I'll spend some time in New York. Uh,
Those are good
for those,
places
for
to
that,
go.
just to be around, and to be able to hear and speak to folks that are working in a way that um, that I can learn from. Yeah.
Yeah, and at a depth,
Hmm.
who have been in there for so long that they eat and breathe it. And yeah, very cool. I'm excited for you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. I really was looking forward to a portion of this conversation being actually active creation. And I wonder if you'd be so brave as to invite us into your creative process and maybe work on something and let us know how it goes, even just for a few minutes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So sure. I have a thing that I've like a commission with Mashed Poetics, a series in Vancouver. And what they do is they take an album and they take all the songs off that album and they assign each song from the album to a poet. And then the poet writes something in response to that song. And then we all get together and read our poems and play the music. And it's a fun evening. So my song is Tegan and Sarah's Where Does the Good Go? Where do you go with your broken heart in tow? What do you do with the leftover you? And how do you know when to let go? Where does the good go? Where does the good go? Look me in the eye and tell me you don't find me attractive. Look me in the heart and tell me you won't go. Look me in the eye and promise no love is like our love. Look me in the heart and unbreak broken. It won't happen. All right. So
these are the lyrics.
These are the lyrics to the Tegan and Sarah song.
And your job is to write lines inspired by this.
It's to write a poem or a song inspired by this. Yeah. So I'm writing down, look me in the heart. And I'll just do what I do with my students for a second, which is, here's the prompt, free write. So I'm gonna stop saying something for just a second. So, I read this out. So even in my body, I got a rhythm from this. So this is free writing, y'all.
It's free writing. It just have in the moment.
Free writing.
No edits.
In the classroom, it's like you can share, you can not share. You don't have to share. I'm not going to not share. I'll share.
That's right. We are brave on this podcast.
But it's raw writing. Okay, look me in the heart. Look me in the spleen, in the appendix. Look me in the valves and secretions. Look me in the places that defy a microscope. I could be touched there. I could be.
Free write? That's incredible. It happened here. Let's cover the logo here. There you go. Thank you, Sonnet.
You're welcome.
For doing that. That's incredible. Thank you for being that brave. That's the beauty of artists. You have to be brave. Artists are used to being brave. Great. Okay, well, we're at the end of our chat. Thank you so much for being a part of this.
Thank you for having me. It's been fun.
Is there any events or anything you want to let people know about before we sign off here? Any websites you want to bring our attention to? Goodness,
are there any events? No, you can find me on Instagram. I let people know what's going on with me there. It's just at Sonnet L'Abbé on Instagram. Sure.
Great. Yeah, and big thank you to TELUS StoryHive On Location in Nanaimo here. And thank you to House of Owl for all the gear, all the support of the community. And that's houseofowl.com, HAUS of owl.com.
Where's House of Owl? Where does
In Victoria.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, maybe I'm being a little greedy here, but maybe just to end it, instead of ending on the sign off, you could read one more poem and then we'll cut the live stream after that.
Sure. Do zebras have solid parents? A black stallion? A white mare? Are they black horses with white stripes? Or white horses with black bars? If you see them in cages at just the right angle, will they seem a uniform color? Lose their prison suits? Does chocolate milk come from brown cows? My sister and I were young and thought along those lines.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Well, that wraps up another Story Hive on location Nanaimo. If you have a story to tell and you want to be featured on this show, just scan the QR code and apply to be a guest. Until then, this is Jordan Dack with Story Hive on location Nanaimo. I look forward to connecting again soon. Be well.